Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all of you vipers doing out there? Mrs. Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
I love it. I love it. Hey, everybody out there in the world. Hopefully you're smoking some big fat doinks while you're listening to this show. And this is our smoke sesh with George from DynaVap. Say hi, George.
Hello.
How you doing, brother?
Hello.
Good to see you. We have a great show for you all because we're going to be talking about the art of vaping, thermal extraction, and respect the click. But before we get into all the fun stuff, we're going to smoke because this is a fucking smoking show. So, George, show us what you brought us.
So I've got some Super Silver Haze from James Loud.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite strains. And that's going to be going into this really sexy new tip that we just released a couple days ago.
Very nice. Sexy.
Which, like a lot of our products, we like to engineer simplicity in terms of use into our things. So I'm going to take this whole little beautiful flower, and I'm going to just grind it right into the tip because it's got teeth on it, and it'll just grind it into a nice consistency right off the flower. So
Sweet.
just simple like that.
Mine doesn't have a grinder. I have the first model,
Yours is
original
old
OG.
school. Your package
Me.
is probably going to show up here tomorrow, and then you're going to have some new goodies to play with.
Nice.
So
Mrs. Weedman and I are smoking Harpy that was grown by a friend of ours, Big Earl. So while you're showing everybody how to use your phenomenal gadget, gizmo, what I like to call them, I'm going to use mine, and Mrs. Weedman's going to light hers up, her 8 decades bowl.
lovely.
And so with yours, you're heating it, correct?
Yep. I'm heating it up, just kind of evenly bringing up the temperature. And I just heard it click.
That's it.
Ooh, I just heard mine click too.
You get that beautiful terpy profile. Just so delightful.
So much flavor.
And then it'll click again when it cools off. So I know it's either ready for round 2 or put it away and save it for another day.
I'm going to smoke another hit. That's just me. I don't have to talk much on this show, so I'm just going to get baked.
Love it.
Are you an all-day wake and baker?
My world is more along the lines of get the things done that need to get done, and the reward comes at the end.
Same here.
At least that's the way that I've done it up until this point. It doesn't mean that I'm opposed to changing up things a little bit to try it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But it just, I found over the years that I tend to have more of the focus that I'm looking for to take care of the during the day operations that way. And it's kind of the reward to let the creative juices flow when I get to spend a little bit of time maybe working on the next project or product design or something along those lines. And a couple clicks helps it flow.
There you go. So who the fuck is George? Why are you on the show? Tell us about yourself, brother.
I think I finally landed on a cool show like this because maybe the product that I've had a little bit of a role in, along with some other amazing people in our company, it's beginning to have a bit of an influence in the cannabis space, giving people an alternative to smoking. And I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's an alternative. It's a different route. There's other products out there like ours that allow you to bake your cookies instead of burning them. Ours just takes a little bit of a different approach in a little bit more compact size than I think most people are familiar with.
Love it.
Sweet.
And then how did you get your entrepreneur spirit? Like, how did you, I read about you that you were in the Navy, you were, worked in a nuclear submarine duty. That's fucking badass.
It was interesting. Let's put it that way.
And then you were the owner of Zipcoat and the CTO of Scope Mounted Electronics for 8 years.
Yes. So that venture kind of happened concurrently with getting DynaVap off the ground. And things started coming to focus for me, I'd say, in my late 20s, early 30s, when I came to a conclusion that I would have liked to have found a little bit earlier in life that, if I'm going to be able to do the things I really want to be able to do, I need to accept responsibility for finding a way to do that and do it instead of waiting for someone to discover me for who I am. And so I made it a lot more of my focus to, okay, how am I going to do this? If I want to develop products, instead of trying to get a position developing products for some other company, how do I just develop my own? And when that was combined with the fact that I really enjoyed certain aspects of cannabis, the smoke not being one of them, it's like, okay, I like these vaporizer things, but doggone it, they're big and bulky and expensive. How difficult could it possibly be to make one?
Tell us.
Well, so the question is kind of a two-part one. The answer is not difficult at all. The difficult part comes in making something that's small, compact, easy for someone that does not understand physics to use. And hence the quest to solve that problem is really the impetus for the formation of DynaVap.
Oh. Did you take any knowledge from being in a nuclear sub to make this phenomenal gizmo?
Actually, minimal. It was actually the knowledge that I gained from what I did after the Navy when I was kind of asked to come back and help in the family business, which was cleaning chimneys, restoring chimneys, and selling wood stoves and fireplaces. That servicing like the gas fireplaces, for example, occasionally the fans would not work, right? And that's just annoying when the fan breaks. Okay, why does the fan not work? Well, one of the most common reasons why the fan didn't work, come on, turn off, whatever it might be, it was this little device called a thermostat. Little tiny switch, about the size of a quarter, right? About this big. And you put wires in it. And what happens is when it gets a certain temperature, there's a little thermostat inside that's made out of a little round disc that's slightly domed of an interesting material called bimetal. And these things can be calibrated to a specific temperature. And when they get to a certain temperature, they invert. They move. And they can press a switch that either opens or closes a circuit. And it was after I had played around with glass tubes and lighters, making little rudimentary ovens to bake my herbs instead of burning them. I was thinking to myself, now how could I simplify this in a way that it'd be easy for people to know that they're at the perfect temperature for baking, because you need to stop heating, otherwise you're burning. And I thought about, electronic sensors and LEDs and, color changing paints, which are kind of toxic. And I'm going to do this. And then one day it just finally clicked. It's like, oh, there's little tiny thermostats in these switches that run these fans that tend to fail. And it's not the thermostat that tends to fail, it's the switch. Mainly because people get things too hot and they burn them or melt them or something like that. It's like, oh, I wonder if I can get one small enough to put in a device that looks like a little pipe or a one-hitter. And that was pretty much the beginning of, I think this might be the way you can solve this problem.
It's very interesting, like how that click happens when you're lighting it up. And you hear that click. It's just like when the first time I did it and I read the instructions, like, you're going to hear a little click. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. How the hell are you going to hear a click? It's like a one hitter. I was so confused and so bewildered. And when all of a sudden I'm like listening, I was like, psh. Next thing you know, I hear like, I'm like, a click. What do I do now? Oh yeah, I got to smoke the fucking thing.
I kind of have the same experience.
And then it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, this is great.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just one of those fun moments, like, son of a bitch. Is it really that simple? I put my flower in there, I put this cap on, I heat it up with anything that's warm enough, which can be really fun because lighters are great. Induction heaters are actually pretty fun too. But it's really fun when you start changing it up. I mean, you can light the burner in your kitchen and just hold it over that. I was standing outside on this patio with those, giant stand-up patio heaters. Like, oh, you know what? That looks like a portable vap cap heater. And you just hold it up there until it clicks. Grab a stick out of the campfire, light a candle. It all works. Just simple.
It is very simple to use for somebody like me. I like to dab, but the whole, and Mrs. Weedman likes to do it, but the whole torch thing and the whole confuses her a little bit at times. So this is such a simplicity to use, along with like just torch, boom, lighter, stove. I mean, I like to spread it out across the whole thing because I like to get the flavor and a good hit. So I remember reading the instructions on this one. Like you could keep it up top for, I think it was for a bigger hit, keep it down lower for flavor, or maybe vice versa. And then, or you spread it out and you get both of both worlds.
Heat the tip for a tasty rip.
There you go.
Heat the base to go to space. And then, especially on our new M Plus, below the base to melt your face. Because the new tip we've got on our M that we released this year, which again, we shipped that thing out early, and not thinking it'd be here on time. You'll get an M Plus in there. You'll get to see what that new tip can really do, and it's
nice.
Fun. It's actually really fun.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I heard you mention concentrates.
Yeah. Can you smoke concentrates out of those, or do you have one coming out?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Neat. So, do a little reconfiguration here. So, this is our B. Okay. I've got the same stem. Normally they come black, but we got other colors. It's a silicone stem. Okay. Nice. It's got a stainless steel tube in the inside as a liner, so it's not so flimsy. And it kind of keeps all of your vapor or smoke inside stainless steel, so it's not touching silicone. Which, not saying silicone's bad, but if you can have stainless steel instead, why not?
Yeah.
This little device, if I could hold it up.
Yeah, we see it.
Is called the DynaCoil. Okay. This is a single piece of precision engineered titanium, all rolled up, lots and lots of tiny little holes, and it fits in the B really nice. You'll hear a little kind of click.
Heard it.
Presses into place, right? So it doesn't fall out. Occasionally you might need to bend one of the little flaps a little bit just to make sure it stays put. Now here's where it gets fun. We can take some, I've got some crumble here.
Nice.
Okay.
I love when people dab on the show.
And so here's where it gets really, really fun. I can preheat this thing, and I like to preheat on the fin. Okay. And I like to preheat for about 7 to 10 seconds, depending on the size of my flame, the intensity of my torch. Okay. I'm not heating the coil. I'm heating the chamber, right? Which is indirectly heating the coil. And now there's this really fun thing I can do. And I can just take, and if I can get it in front of the camera here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We see it.
I can just dip it in. Okay. And just touch my concentrate. And since my coil is warm, it melts and it soaks right into the coil. Okay. Which gives you a perfect dose because you're not dabbing it in there with a dab tool and getting things sticky all over the place. Okay. It just soaks up whatever it can hold, kind of like a paper towel only holds so much water, right? Because once it's saturated, it's saturated. Once the DynaCoil is saturated, it's ready to go. Our tip's preheated now. Now I'm going to heat kind of low because I want to drive more heat into that chamber. And we can get a pretty nice terpy rip off of this little guy.
I'm excited. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, I see it.
Oh, brother, that is smooth.
Sweet. But it's not burned. You're getting all the terpenes. You're getting all the flavors.
Everything.
Just smooth.
Because
Yeah.
that click lets us know when our oven is at the right temperature. So we don't overheat, so we don't scorch.
Huh. That's fascinating. So simple. And like Mr. Weedman said, you know, I like glass. I like dabs. I like all that. But it's just when you're busy and you're going, even our smoke sessions sometimes are rushed, right?
Sure.
And the thought of sitting down with glass and all this stuff, to me, is just give me a joint.
Well, it just
right?
doesn't fit in your routine necessarily.
Correct. But this is a great, alternative.
This works with all concentrates. Okay.
We're hash people here, so if it works with hash, I like it already.
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to handle this, but I got some hash here too.
Oh boy.
In general, we don't recommend the DynaVap for hash because hash is it's not a full melt, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it'll plug up and be kind of a mess to clean. But we can take just a regular. There it is. We can take a regular tip, and we can just wipe a little bit of hash around the inside. Make what I call hash petals. Okay, so take your hash, smash it nice and flat and thin, get it a little bit sticky, and you're just going to wipe it around the inside of your chamber. Make 1 or 2 little revolutions trying to get these thin little hash petals. And then what you want to do is then cap it off and hold your device at an angle about like this. Okay, about 15 to 20 degrees above horizontal. And heat kind of low, right? Heat the base to go to space kind of thing.
Yeah.
So then as those hash petals melt, they go like this. And they stick to the inside of the chamber, up above the screen so they don't plug the screen. And since they melt right to the side of the chamber, you can drive all that heat in there and bake those cookies just perfectly. Get every last little bit out of that hash without actually burning it. And then the best part, you take the digger outer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just scrape the inside right out like that.
Like that.
And
so my OG one I can use for hash, right then, you're saying?
Absolutely.
Hell
Sweet.
Yeah,
We're trying that.
I got some hash we're going to be smoking tonight.
Yeah.
Because we thought of you, Mr. and Mrs. Weedman.
That's George.
You didn't want to take apart that pen to find a poker.
Right.
You just wanted your poker built into the device. Because wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
You know, I got to take my cap off and, it's already in my fingers in the right position to dig out what I no longer need.
That's pretty great.
How nice is that? And I can also kind of stick it around the backside to hold it while I'm loading up the next one so I don't lose it or drop it.
That's why it's so easy. It's so easy to get flour out of there. There's that little scooper. That's why I always loved about it.
Yeah.
And you always have to put the cap on before burning, right?
We're not technically burning, at least
or
for the most
heating.
part. If we respect the click, we're not burning. And it's not that you can't burn in these things. You certainly can because they're made out of stainless steel or titanium. You're not going to hurt a thing if you burn in this device. It'll just get dirty a little bit faster. But everything's cleanable as well. I mean, the O-rings don't mind ISO. They don't mind the temperature. It's all fine.
Cool. So if someone stops by and they're like, oh, he left his one hitter out, I'm going to smoke it. Then they're fine. They're not ruining it.
Not ruining it at all. It'll just taste like smoke for a couple of cycles, or you take out your swabs and some ISO and you clean it or whatever. It's one of those nice things that there aren't many electronic vaporizers that you can smoke out of, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or you probably could, but I still don't think it'd be okay. I don't think it would taste very good either.
I just like it because you can smoke dry flour out of this, and I'm excited to try hash out of it in about an hour when we're done. Yeah. But I'm really excited. So
hash is nice.
Yeah, love it. So, but thank you for explaining how to use this and the new gizmos you have coming along with it. I'm super stoked to get my package, but let's talk about the art of vaping and the positivity of the side effects.
I would love to do that. And I think it begins with a new flavor experience. If you're accustomed to smoking and smoking only, here's a process whether it's our products or other products that do similar things, that allows you to taste your flower maybe for the first time ever if you've only ever smoked. But even if you only ever smoked, I would be willing to bet that almost every time you get a new bag or a new strain, the first thing you do before you do anything else is you open it up and you smell it, because you like the way it smells and you want to smell what it's like, because that smell is an indicator of what's about to come. So it's a really important part of this ritual. And then we pack it or we roll it or we grind it, whatever we do, and then we light it and we taste it, and the taste is reminiscent to what it smells like, until you vaporize in a good quality vaporizer for the first time, and all of a sudden it tastes like it smells.
That's why I like the volcanoes so much.
Yes.
Before I got one of these, I would love me a volcano because you could really get the taste.
Oh, the taste is fantastic. Again, it's different than smoke. It's not necessarily better. And in my opinion, specifically for flavor alone, the transition to vaporization was super easy for me. Secondary was, the smoke was really harsh on my throat and just a little bit difficult. I found that this was a lot easier for me to use. It just didn't hurt. It didn't burn quite as much because, I've never been a person really big on smoking cigarettes, anything along those lines. So maybe I was just a little sensitive. So there.
There you go. What so when we're vaping with the the art of this,
yes,
the positive effects though, I mean, I'm still trying to get vape. How does this vape versus smoke? I mean, how does this make a vaporization? I've had a lot of people hit me up about vaporizing and vaporization, especially on we've done some articles on it. So I have a lot of knowledgeable people and I'm uneducated as fuck.
Well, until now, because this is going to be super fun. Okay. The super fun way to look at vaporization is smoking without the smoke. Okay. And so what we're doing is we're replacing the thermal energy that's provided by burning the plant matter is also producing some undesirable compounds in the process of being used as fuel. Okay. It's we'll call it the flower that you're sacrificing to become fuel is providing the energy necessary to vaporize the stuff just in front of it. Okay. So as it's burning along, all this heat energy is being produced by the flower burning is like the lighter that we use to heat one of our DynaVap products, providing that thermal energy to help those compounds change form, decarboxylation, and or raise their temperature above the point where they easily and readily turn into an aerosol or evaporate. And then they get carried along in the stream of smoke, heat, water vapor, and other ancillary compounds, terpenes, and they land in your mouth first, and then they continue on their way as far as you think they should go.
That's fucking interesting as hell.
And would you say the psychotropic effects are stronger, equal, less?
Very different, especially at the higher end of the thermal extraction range. Okay, because no, at both ends of the thermal extraction range. Because when you go with very low temperature extractions, you get an experience that is much more towards what the terpenes are capable of providing. And you end up extracting a smaller percentage of some of the more sedating cannabinoids, to get technical. But I think you follow me along?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Then when we go to the upper end of the thermal extraction range, you get a lot more of those sedating cannabinoids, and you've actually burned off or even destroyed or damaged a lot of the fragile terpenes, so you actually get a lot less of those. Not that you just take them off and you have those and then the other stuff. If you go right for the high temperatures, it changes the profile substantially, even within the same strain of cannabis, because you have changed the chemical composition of what you're going to be consuming. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you stop heating at the lower threshold, it's like soft baked cookies. Okay. Mm-hmm. When you stop heating at the upper threshold, they're crispy, crunchy motherfuckers.
And I don't like fucking crispy cookies. Ask Mrs. Weedman. I like chewy goodness.
Yeah. Then the smoking is largely the upper end of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. Okay. With a little bit of a mix of everything, because you've got this temperature gradient as your material is burning through. Okay. Plus, you get the psychotropic effects of the things that weren't there in the beginning, say carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide, okay, and other things, which even if you just consume those by themselves, it would give you an effect. So these kind of work with each other.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting any carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide when you use the DynaVap.
To say you're not getting any is too specific. Okay. You're getting almost none.
I like that.
Compared to smoking, it's a gigantic reduction in those compounds, and it's a complete elimination of some of the nastiest compounds that are produced during smoking. Are these long chain molecules that happen when you have a fire burning in an oxygen deprived environment. You don't get
science. So I'm going to throw you a little curveball because I just have a question, because we've had some people hit us up about questions, and I've done my best to research and answer questions. But the one question I have is, I just forgot. So stoned. Oh, wait, here it is. That harpy got me harping.
I love it.
Smoking out of metal versus smoking out of glass. Do you ever get that question? Because I get a lot of people, like,
yes,
some bowls I smoke that are glass that has a metal bowl, and I always get like ripped on by people. You shouldn't smoke out of metal. You shouldn't smoke out of metal. I'm only throwing. I know this wasn't on our kind of agenda, but maybe you know better than me. I love it.
I love questions like this.
Hell yeah! I'm not asking you it, but I get asked a lot. So I want to, for all of the audience that's listening around the world,
here it is.
I want to know.
We're going to talk about metal and, what it does. Not why you should or should not use it, what it does. Okay, just stick to simple facts. Mm-hmm. Metal smoking things generally are not problematic. However, they do contribute flavors. Okay, that's, some people notice more than others, but they are definitively there just because there's enough thermal energy to release a few metal ions. Okay, now we're not talking about enough to really cause any problems. It doesn't matter what the metal is, as long as your pipe isn't made out of toxic metals,
like lead, right?
Like lead, polonium, something along those lines. Stay away from polonium pipes. I guarantee you, it's not what you're looking for. Yeah, they might look really cool, but you don't want those. Okay, it's just enough that you can detect it. Okay, so not enough to cause harm. It's not something I'd be concerned about, but it does contribute flavors, especially with the smoke, because you got higher temperatures going on. Okay, because you're actually burning in there, and that cherry in your as you're burning flowers can reach temperatures over 600-700 degrees Fahrenheit if you're hitting it hard. Okay, when you've got a vaporizer, you tend to operate at lower temperatures, generally below 500, and sometimes even in the 400s, high 300 range. So it's going to contribute less, more like what you get when you're frying some fish in a stainless steel pot. Okay, it's pretty common for a stainless steel pot with cooking oil in it to be raised at 375 degrees, deep frying things. So there's metal. That's why you get the flavor. Is it a problem? Not really. Is glass better? Less flavor.
So I will say this, because I'm very sensitive to metallic. I came from the beer industry for a long time, and I would know when the beer was like fucked up, and I would taste metallic right away. I do not taste any metal when I use this. None. And even the bowl that we use that has a metal bowl, none. So, I mean, this is like, I'm getting the full flavor of the flower when I smoke out of this.
It gets even cleaner after it's been used a couple dozen times, because then you kind of get a seasoning on the metal. So just like a cast iron frying pan.
Just like a good grill, baby.
Absolutely.
Give me that seasoning.
Got to get the seasoning on there. When it's brand new, fresh, clean metal, you just have a higher likelihood of getting a few more of those metal ions that you can kind of detect either mostly through smell and slightly through taste.
Sweet. Thank you for answering that question for me.
Is that sufficient? Is that what you're looking for?
Sufficient. It was fucking brilliant, because now, Mrs. Weedman, when someone makes a comment going, George from DynaVap said, you're wrong.
I didn't say anyone's wrong. I just said,
I'm just kidding.
Metal is interesting. It contributes flavors for sure. I wouldn't worry about it.
Sweet. I love it.
Metal pipes probably function best and taste best when they're not cleaned very often, because then you get a layer of something else covering it up. So you end up with basically a resin pipe with a metal container.
Good old resin, baby. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you went through this or not, because thermal extraction, I know you've kind of talked about it, but versus other smoking methods.
Okay. So thermal extraction, like we did touch on a little bit, is like baking your cookies, versus smoking is more like burning them and enjoying the aromas while they're burning. With thermal extraction, you get to enjoy the aromas while you're baking. And then the fun thing is you can take the cookies out of the oven because they're not ashes, and now you can eat them too. So you get the best of everything. I think when you use a thermal extraction method, you get to bake your cookies, enjoy the aromas, and then you get to eat them too.
It's pretty sweet.
Right?
Especially if there's weed in it.
Well, what I'm getting at is the weed is your cookies, right?
Yeah.
You load your oven with cookies, you bake them, enjoy all the aromas, and then you can take that already baked cookie, right? You can save that stuff up, and you can literally make edibles out of it, because the thermal extraction preheats and decarbs all of your flour, right? So that it's just ready to go. It's activated. So whatever you don't inhale and consume that way, you can totally bake into an edible. So you get near 100% utilization of all of the goodness in your flour if you choose to use it.
That's pretty sweet. So you need like a little jar to put all of your aftermath in.
I will tell you a story. My brother has a friend who uses volcanoes like crazy, all different types of vapor. He saved a QP and my brother made root beer, like the drink root beer with what he made. He made like a Caesura basically. I tell you what, knock you fucking out. I mean, this stuff was so strong. And I said, how'd you make this? He goes, I took decarbed bud that my buddy was using out of his vapes and out of his vaporizers and out of his volcano, and he saved it up for me. And I'm like, dude, you're knocking people out. So I agree with you 100% on that.
Isn't it funny though, when we think about it this way? Again, not that I think one is necessarily better than the other, but when we use this method, we get to enjoy our product multiple ways on multiple levels and just have a whole lot more control over what our experience is. And if we want a really light, terpy, tasty puff to get going in the morning and just nothing but energy, yeah, we can do a real low temperature, heat the tip for a nice taste, and just be on our way. And when it's the last one of the night, below the base and melt your face and go to bed.
I love that.
Did you come up with that?
I wish. No. Some beautiful people on our DynaVap Discord, and also some people that tend to help us out with beta testing. We were having a conversation one night on a Discord chat about a project that we're working on. I think it might have actually been the discussion on this M+ tip. We're talking, because normally on our previous design tips, you wouldn't really heat intentionally below the cap, because you're just driving more heat into the tip and down into your stem and your handle, getting it hotter. But when we redesigned this newer tip, we put a lot of the mass right underneath that chamber. And so now you actually can heat lower than ever. And since you're heating further away from the end of the cap, which is where the indicator is, it clicks, it means everything comes up to a little bit higher temperature. And this is achieved just by moving where you heat. It's like an adjustment dial.
Like it. So how many versions are you at now?
Oh, geez.
How many trials and errors first till you got to the versions?
It was actually quite a bit. This was a project I was working on a lot of my off time when I wasn't working or sleeping. Just making another thing, trying to test it out, trying to get someone else to test it, give me some feedback. What do you not like? How can I make it better? And just a whole lot of that, and trying to solve the problems in terms of which material, which size, which length, which diameter, what temperature, how big should the chamber be, right? And all these things that, well, you got to start somewhere, and how do you know if that's good or not? You got to go bigger, you got to go smaller, you got to go longer, you got to go shorter, you got to, all these iterations that need to be put together and then evaluated. It took some doing.
How long did you go to market on the first version?
First concept happened in January 2012. The clicking of the cap came up a couple of months after that. It took quite a few iterations just to get to a size that I thought was appropriate. And then in order to make the cap click, I had to actually change the size a little bit more. And from there, we didn't even make the project public until the summer of 2015.
Wow. Okay.
So just fine tuning.
Oh, and it wasn't that I didn't want to go to market, but wow, it's hard for me to really put into words right now when I'm thinking about it from this perspective. How much effort went into just making what's this deceptively little simple tube into the product that just hit the market initially. That it wasn't great, but it did work.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually Mrs. Weedman's wheelhouse, because we'll talk after the show, but she created a product and it took 2 years to go to market. So I understand 100% of the frustration, the passion, the love, the frustration, the maybe not sleeping some nights because your mind is going 50. I'm talking about Mrs. Weedman here, not me. Right. Like her wheels spinning 100 times. So I feel you on that.
Okay, so you've been party to that. It's it's almost like a sickness. It's like, I know I need to sleep. I don't want to sleep.
Because you want to get it figured out. Yeah.
I know how to do this. I got to do it. I got to do this, and you get it done, and it either works or it doesn't, but most of the time it doesn't. It's like, no, I can't go to sleep. I don't want to go to sleep. I got to try a different way. And then you finally get it, and it's better than having someone scratch that itch in the middle of your back that you can't reach precisely, spot on, just right, the right amount of pressure and the right number of times instantly.
Perfect.
I mean, I've seen Mrs. Weedman like literally like wake up, not maybe out of a dead sleep, but to write stuff down, type herself some notes on her phone. I feel exactly what you're going through, what you went through to get to where you needed to be at today, because I see it in Mrs. Weedman, and it has to do a ton with passion and love for your product.
But our product didn't even have technical functions. Ours are just objects, really. And I can only imagine if there's technicalities involved and physics and like you have a lot more going on in your product.
There's a lot of variables, and they're easy to dismiss at this point. Because it's been done, right? You know, we don't really think about light bulbs because no one uses them anymore. Everyone uses LEDs, okay? Mm-hmm. But there was a point in time when artificial light just didn't exist. Now we just take it for granted, okay? But there's a lot of passion that went into developing the technology just to proof of concept level, and then into pre-production and production. Even though the products weren't great, they did work well enough that people adopted them and bought them to fund further development. And now we've got these amazing things around us that we just take for granted. So, roundabout way of getting at this silly little piece of machine metal is kind of a fun piece of engineering, because we had to incorporate so many different functions and attributes by just simply working with the geometry and the distribution of mass and the way that the heat conducts through the whole device, so that we can try and find the best compromise of features, attributes, technicalities, and just the physical things that the elements contribute to one another.
It's pretty cool.
Balance it all together.
How much did cannabis help you create this? Did it at all, or were you? I know you say usually at night, when you're done with your work, but did this help, like, give you some like thoughts? Because for me, cannabis helps me think a lot. Mrs. Weedman, she's an idea woman, so it helps her a ton. So did it help you get through some troubling times?
I found it to be an incredibly useful tool in several regards. Number one, I like it. If I just leave it at that, I like it. Okay. When you find something that you like, you're motivated to have more of what you like because you like it. And so if we look at it for nothing more than that, I didn't like smoke, but I wanted more of what I liked. Okay. Well, in the pursuit of more of what I liked and less of what I didn't, this whole project happened. The fact that I was able to convert it into something that provided me with additional resources so I could make more of them, well, that's just icing on the cake.
There you go. There you go. I love it. You talk about respecting the click.
Yeah.
You talk about that a lot. And how does the herb with the vaporization and reduce the risk damage smoke may cause or toxins may cause? But okay. I like the respect the click. It's pretty catchy.
It's kind of fun. And we were really searching for something that we could utilize to kind of associate kind of our mission, right, into something that's easy for people to remember and that they can associate it with something, right? And respect the click refers to our cap clicks to let you know that you're in that range so you don't overdo it. And where you heat on the cap allows you to adjust that temperature range largely from as cool as you want to go to get anything to all the way to the upper limit where you can basically be just shy of catching on fire. Okay. So respect the click means if you respect the click, you have complete control of your experience.
I like that. Control.
By just respecting the click.
And that's what I think it finds interesting, that people don't, there's some people that know how to control their intake, control their usage. Can you say this helps people with that?
I think it helps in a pretty significant way. And I say that because our devices, at least what we have available now, generally tend to run at the very smaller end of the chamber size for any other products similar to ours in the industry. Okay. And they can be adjusted to be even smaller, which means it's very easy to dose a small, reliable, repeatable amount. And when that dosage is consumed via thermal extraction and respecting the click, you're getting a very repeatable experience every single time. Versus a puff of a joint that you just rolled that's thicker or thinner or whatever else it might be. It's a lot more variables if you're looking for very precise, we'll call it very precise and predictable experiences.
Mm-hmm. Sweet.
When you're using it medicinally, there's actually a pretty narrow range that falls in that sweet spot in terms of just enough to take the edge off or to make it a little bit easier to focus, but not so much that, it's time for a movie and a bag of chips.
This is Weedman's favorite.
Again, not saying that that's a problem, but how cool is it that by just respecting the click doesn't have any control. You have all the control. Okay. This is just the speedometer dinging saying you've now exceeded 8 miles an hour over the limit, which is about where you like to be. Is that good? Or do you want to go faster tonight?
There's some nights you want to go fast. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Weedman. Sorry.
No, it's dosing. You could essentially dose with the click. Maybe you're a 2-click person. So does that mean then you're going in twice? It won't double click, right?
So yeah, absolutely. A typical extraction cycle for most of our devices, okay, if you're heating in, I'm going to say middle of the road fashion, is about 3 to 4 cycles for more or less complete extraction, or to the point where it just doesn't tend to taste very good anymore, and you're better off to dump it and save it, make edibles, or just move on.
Okay.
But again, there's a huge amount of variability that's possible, because you can load this thing up, heat below the base to melt your face, and damn near get complete extraction of everything in one go. So it's another thing that I find is a useful attribute that's kind of built and engineered into our products, is that these devices are capable of emulating an experience that's closer to smoking than I think any other vaporizer, at least previous to us entering the market, was capable of doing. And that helps people, if they choose, to smoke less and to vaporize more, which means you're consuming everything that you're looking for and less byproducts that are in the smoke.
That's fucking awesome.
That is.
I really appreciate you explaining the 3 topics we talked, but I respect the hell out of small business owners, mom and pop shops. How tough was it? And what can you give to somebody out there looking to start their own company? Some mentorship and coach. I'm real big into mentorship and coaching. I've been doing it for a long time. Give just a little bit of mentorship, what people can do to like exceed in life or succeed in life.
Oh, I love these things, Mr. Weedman. You hit on one of my other passions, right? Because I feel that the more people we help along our way, the better our way tends to become. And yeah, so love to help out other people. As you're pursuing whatever it is that you're going after, don't forget that. If you get too focused on yourself and your goals, you're going to struggle to achieve them, because you need those other people around you to provide you with support and the resources necessary to pursue that thing that's super important to you. So don't forget about the people around you. I think that's probably the best advice I can give you. I know I really struggle with that, because when I'm passionate about something, it's extremely difficult to focus on anything else. I mean, really difficult. I mean, to the point where, food isn't not interesting. I don't want to stop. I don't want to sleep. That's the mindset, I think, the entrepreneur, which makes it easy to forget about the people around you.
That's a line that I use a lot is nobody cares how much you know. They only want how much you care.
Yeah. Because in the end, if you don't have anyone around you to share your successes with, who cares?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what's it worth then?
Yeah,
right?
That's the thing, and it's not even the success in terms of what you've accomplished, okay? But if what you're accomplishing is something that you really care about, that's actually making a difference in other people's lives, then a big part of what you get to share is the fact that you have helped other people have more of what they're looking for in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And
by helping others succeed,
by helping others
eventually succeed. I'm not a smart person. I'm good at a few things, 2 tree, as we say in the south side of Chicago, 2 tree things. I look for people that are better at things I'm not good at to help me, like Mrs. Weedman over there, but people to help me do things I'm not good at, because I can't play a fucking guitar at all. Mm-hmm. So even if I practice, I might be a 1 right now. I could probably get to a 2. So I look for people that have the skill sets that are an 8 or a 9 to help me get a little bit better, but they're the ones that are going to take me to that next level.
Absolutely. That's also why it's so important to not forget the people around you, because it's not even the people that you know and interface with every day. It's the people that they interface that you have access to through the people around you that you are interfacing with directly every day, if you've taken care of them and they feel like sharing that connectivity with you. So it's really amazing when you start to think about how important is those ancillary resources around you that are directly related to the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Weedman, you got anything else to ask George?
I think that we had some really good discussions, and I think that learning about vaporizing I I always say my favorite way to smoke or consume is to smoke a joint.
Okay.
I want a joint. And I also have allergies and whatever. So I know it's not the healthiest option either. So it's nice to know that there's a convenient and very user-friendly way to consume, and it may actually be better for me, right?
Well, the for sure, what I can tell you is that you can remove a whole lot of the unnecessary toxins from what you're
Hmm.
consuming. But even if you couldn't, here's where it gets really fun as a comparison, and where I can, with much more confidence, state that I think that this method of consumption is a better choice from a health perspective. Okay,
Hmm.
is the simple fact that you will consume less material. Period. Okay, so even if the toxin level of everything that you're consuming is identical, which I think we can be pretty confident it is not, you will consume less of it.
That's great.
Okay, just for the simple fact
Yeah.
that that method of extraction preserves a much higher percentage of the active compounds during extraction. Smoking is a type of extraction, no different. It just utilizes a good portion of the things that you're trying to consume as fuel.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm gonna get familiar with the DynaVap when it comes in the mail, and I'm gonna smoke
Well,
it.
I
Yeah,
hope it provides you with
I
some
can't wait.
tasteful and maybe even productive experiences.
I hope so. I'm sure it will.
I know she has a smile on her face when she's done smoking it. She'll have a successful experience. Hey,
And there's a good number of videos you can catch for tips and tricks on these things too. You'll be surprised how much nuance there is in this device versus just a pipe. You can really make it do some tricks.
Cool.
Mrs. Weedman loves tips and tricks. She's an idea person and she loves to research. So
Well, yeah. If there's other ways to use
I
something, it's
know.
good to find out.
I'm giving you props because you tell me a lot of stuff I don't know shit about.
And that's what keeps the conversation interesting.
That's it.
That's all right.
Tell me something.
What's that?
Tell me some of the like real heavy. Did you ever feel like you wanted to quit? Like it was like you put your head against the wall. I just have to ask an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, like, did you ever want to put your fucking head through the wall and say, I'm done? Especially in the beginning phases. Like everyone says like 2 years to like for an idea to come to a concept, to come to reality, to maybe 5 years. And now you've been around since you started this in 2012. It is now 2023. How many trials and tribulations you had to go through to get to be a successful business owner?
The funny thing is, they actually only got worse. So, yeah, if you really think you want to be an entrepreneur and you're struggling whether or not you think you can make this thing go, understand that you may find some success, but some of the difficulties that you're dealing with, oh yeah, they go away and they're replaced with more difficult ones. And that just doesn't really change until you do something else, which will come with its own new set of variables. So, I know my perspective was not this when I started. It's like, I'll get it going. I'll sell a whole bunch of these things and make a bunch of money, and life is going to be great. And don't misunderstand me. I'm very happy with what I have in front of me, what I'm able to do. But it's not like I'm sitting on the beach somewhere, right? The problems and the challenges are real, and they're some of the most difficult I've ever faced because they're not problems related to products. They're problems related to all these new variables of operating the business and balancing all of the flows
Mm-hmm.
so I can keep doing it. Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah.
it's a balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially you're 100% full time now, I presume.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been full time doing this project. Let's see. Oh, here's a fun little fact. So I hired my first employee part time in the end of 2015, and then it was the end of March that he went full time, and that was a huge step. But it wasn't until a year later, when we had 7 employees, that I was able to take my first paycheck. Okay.
Yep.
And that was really tough because I didn't have a job and I didn't have any income coming in.
You went balls out on that then.
and not much in savings either. So it was actually a pretty foolish thing to do. But at the same time, and I think this is a story I've heard from many other entrepreneurs, it's almost required that you have to put yourself into a fucking do or die scenario. Because if there's not something horrendous on your tail, you may not have enough motivation to do all of the things that you already know you need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
Ain't that the fucking truth? I'm telling you, that's the truth. Mrs. Weedman and I have done a few businesses besides what we're doing now in our 29 years of being together. We've done yes. One of us always had a full-time job to carry us over, so we're not starving.
Yeah, well, I was thankful that my wife tolerated what I was doing. Because, we were living on her income to an extent. Mm-hmm. And, it had to look pretty odd when I think about it from the outside perspective. Here's this guy that's going to work all day, every day, with almost no days off. And I'm not complaining because I was loving every minute of it.
This is the price of success, though.
Well, it's I don't know if I call it the price, but it's the path. It's kind of the entry fee, right? Mm-hmm. Because in my perspective, if you don't care about something enough to do these things, the likelihood you're going to become successful is very low. It's not necessarily that you have to do it with that vigor, but the people that have the vigor and care about it enough to do it, have the vigor and do it that way. So it's not like, okay, well, so the key to success is I got to work 8 hours a week. No, nope. I don't care how many hours a week you work. You just have to be willing to work towards something you care so much about that you're willing to work hard enough to make it successful. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Mm-hmm. That's huge right there, George. I appreciate you sharing it means a lot to mentor people out there. Some people need to hear that. Some people don't ever want to own their own business. Some people want to, and they don't know how to get there, or they've gotten there and don't know where to go forward.
Yeah, well, there's actually beautiful resources out there for it. And I would have liked to have known about more of these resources sooner. But one of the ones I found to actually be really useful is something I learned about actually when I was in the process of being discharged from the Navy. And it's an organization called SCORE.
Yep.
Okay. It's a really interesting and I would consider a pretty high quality organization. And so I reached out to them and in 2016. Turns out I should have reached out to them long before I did, because when I reached out to them, they came and they looked through the business and like, you already have 12, 13, 4, how many employees do you have? And you got these CNC machines, you're making parts, you're putting them together, you're shipping them. How many are you shipping? How far, how many places are you shipping them? Why do you need us? It's like, because I don't know anything about business.
Right.
It's just selling, and we're just trying to make it as fast as we can. But that just doesn't work. It's only sustainable for a while. We had no structure. We were just trying to make it go. Yeah. So
I worked with them. They're a wonderful organization.
They're fun. So they helped us with structure. They helped us with understanding. And it doesn't cost anything to engage with them. Mm-hmm. So if you seriously want to get involved in business, reach out to SCORE. These are people that have been there and done that, and they can help you vet your idea, whether it's even worthy of your time. They do clinics, so you don't have to talk to anyone directly. You can just attend as a group and get beautiful, useful information. And all you got to do is go get it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Go get it.
Just go get it. It's there.
Just go get it. Yeah.
Just how far you're willing to go.
Yeah. And if you're not willing to go get the information, then well, here's the sad conclusion. You're not going to make it as a small business owner. Okay? That's okay. You can have a successful life and career doing other things. This is just some advice that if you're not willing to go get the information, just stop worrying about starting your business and just worry about finding some other way to get the things you're looking for in life.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. That's perfect. I love it. I want to thank you, George. But before we sign off, tell everybody where they can find you.
All right. So our company goes by the name DynaVap. Our website is DynaVap.com. We make things we call thermal extraction devices or vaporizers, magic wands for extracting cannabinoids and active compounds from your favorite botanical sources. You can find us DynaVap on Facebook and Instagram, YouTube as well. Got quite a few videos out there, not only by us, but by many other people. I'm sure if you just simply type DynaVap into a search engine, you'll find some interesting information on what our products can possibly do for you.
Sweet.
Excellent.
I love it. Real pleasure to have you on the show, George. I loved smoking with you. Great smoke sesh, too. I appreciate it. And look forward to having you on in the future. Mrs. Weedman, got anything else to say?
I'm going to smoke some more.
Me too.
Let's do it. End of the night.
It was a pleasure, Mr. and Mrs. Weedman. Thank you for the time. The conversation was super fun. And hopefully we can connect again at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
That'd be great.
Hey, everybody out there in the world. We appreciate you listening. Thank you for all the love, kindness, and everybody out there in the world. Do what you got to do to love one another. Be kind to one another. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.